Dr. Fyre Jean Graveline is a two-spirit resilient survivor, a Métis grandmother, healer, artist, activist, educator within an Indigenous eco-arts-based lens. You can learn more about her through lifeasmedicine.ca. The following are answers by Fyre Jean to some participant questions after the session of art therapy.
What I love to pay attention to, being a deeply traumatized person myself, my version of trauma informed is that I only want to surface what I feel I can manage at any given time. And so I found ways to use the art, and some people might just go head right into releasing, and fill up big, huge pages of scribble or anger, we all have lots of it. But I find that my anger or my fear or my grief right now is also very deeply tied to my past experiences and also to my ancestral experiences. So I don't want to take myself too far too fast. And then I'm just kind of like down this landslide of grief and anger and fear and don't know how to get back out. So I like to use the art as more of a regulating practice. And that's why I use the language of safe enough. I don't think that any space is always safe for everyone. And sometimes it can be unexpected that we land somewhere in the art or in our process that we, doesn't feel very safe anymore. So when I was talking about safe enough, I was referencing things like choosing the two colors. So the one color for the difficulty or the emotion that we're trying to release, the other color that's bringing in the light, that's bringing in hope or bringing in love, or however we feel we want to address that light, that beautiful, something that helps us feel good, joy, awe. And then also the idea of, I don't have to stay with this indefinitely. If I need more safety, or if it becomes not safe enough, I can put a box around it. I can even put it away over there on the wall like Lynn does in her practice. And I can look at it from over here and I can go, oh yeah, there it is over there. It doesn't have to be in here, embodied in myself anymore. So that's the second way in this one practice. And then the third way is when I just have too much of it, I can just flip over and I can go, okay, I'm done with that for now. I'm going to get myself back to a safe enough space through color, through motion, through just, sometimes I do just a big sunny day, like a round sun with rays coming off it. I live near the ocean here. Sometimes I do, the waves. And so I'll just do bluey green, flowing. So those are all safe enough techniques that bring us from getting maybe a little bit out of our comfort zone or further out of our comfort zone than we want to be. Releasing rage and fear and anger is always uncomfortable. There's no way to do it comfortably. They're not, all of us are conditioned in a world where, we're not supposed to be doing any of that. So how do we get some comfort within the practice? That's what I was going for in our time today. I just wanted to do kind of like a sweeping practice that maybe everybody could try and then play with it with your own comfort. And then also, I guess the fourth way is bringing the comforting color, more of it, right into the distress, right into the fear, right into the grief, right into the anger. Like I'll sometimes scribble in red for my anger, and then I'll come in with yellow. All of a sudden, I got a fire going on, and I love fire. So then it's like, oh yeah, here's some energy. So that's kind of how it works. As an expressive arts therapist, I love the interweave of song and dance and movement and sounding and arting and color, and nature. I do a lot of land-centered work. So, bringing it all in. I think we have our most incredible opportunities for healing when we're using all of our senses in nature-centered ways to kind of reconnect all of this together. It doesn't have to be separate and over there. It can be just part of the flow. And I do want to respond to a question that you raised around life purpose. one of the things I'm working with right now is, how are we the bridge between our ancestors and our descendants? And, what then comes up for us when we look at not only all of the trauma and harm that our ancestors, faced, and certainly as an Indigenous person or as a Métis, having Indigenous and settler roots, all of the harms and the wars that happened there, but also all of the resiliencies and the ways that we subsisted and survived. What are all of those too coming into me through my ancestors? And then what's my responsibility to hold all of that? And then how is that transmitting then out to the descendants to come? And so if I start looking at myself that way, as kind of positioned between ancestors and descendants, and then also positioned between Mother Earth and Sky World, like this way. So the kind of 4 axes or the 4 directions. What can I learn about what is my heart spark? What is my heart core? What is my soul purpose? And especially as we age, I think it becomes more important that we, kind of land at some point in a deeper understanding of that. I would say get the art stuff out of the basement and, just try the multimodal approach. And I think that you'll find that you'll still get some joy from it. I think for many of us, if we were in experiences of harm when we were children, when we were supposed to be like kind of lighting up that creative, juicy, energy of fun, it will take something for us to go back and retrieve that. And, but that's the beauty. That's a very beautiful process, to unfold for ourselves, that we can enjoy that. How do we come to, I call it enjoy, I-N, capital J-O-Y, like how do we, get into the joy again and bring the joy in to those challenging spaces? Like is ancestral, but is also our childhood trauma and is also, these different kinds of ways that we've been harmed in our lifetime. And in our lifetimes, for those of you who believe that we, recycle and come back around, there's also some medicine for that. Because we're operating kind of like at a whole different level. It's not so much the frontal cortex here. It's not the front part of the brain we're tapping into. We're tapping into a whole other sensory capacity within our bodies when we do it. For one, I would express my sympathies, that it is really challenging to be in the midst of business world. Highly colonial, highly patriarchal, highly painful. And very much operating against intuition, very much operating against creativity, against playfulness, and revering work, 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 and money, money, money. But I think, we can see in America, and I don't want to get too far on this pathway, but, we can see in America right now a very highly classic example of how that's going wrong. That this strategy that they've proposed for all of these generations, and many of us have bought into, is just like not serving and in fact killing us and killing our planet. I'm almost 69. I, feel like I have been on this kind of long, arduous journey of trying to convince institutions, universities, various places that we need alternative healing ways. And now I've just stepped into, since about 60 on, just doing it. This is my bundle. I'm picking it up. I am stepping forward with this. And I'm in my traditional ways, calling upon my ancestors, calling upon Mother Earth, calling upon, Sky World to assist in whatever ways they can. And yes, I do feel sometimes hopeless, helpless, futureless, just like everyone else does, when I look at what is still going on out there. And that's when I scribble. And that's when I take my clay out and slam it. And that's when I go for a walk on the beach. And that's when I go to my, deepen into all of the self-regulating processes I've learned through art therapy, but also through working in the natural world, working with my medicines, burning my protection roots. Like, I just lean into everything I know to take care of myself. And my number one concern right now is sustainability. And when I say that, it's not only my own sustainability as a helper, teacher, person bringing this forward, my vision forward into the world, but it's also sustainability for Mother Earth and our descendants to come. What are we each doing to hold space for that? And so to me, that's what, I don't want to say drives me, because that's like so, grind culture, but I want to say, that's what inspires me. That's what sparks me. That's what gets me out of bed, is that if we don't try everything that we can try right now to put other methods of being and healing and connecting and building community, like we all need that. Like, and we have had it stripped from ourselves from babies on, if not even in the womb, if not even pre-womb when we were eggs, in our mother's womb and our grandmother's womb. We need to start making space for alternative ways of being, living, believing, doing. And to me, and also, I mean, some of you know my relative Louis Riel, but who was like an infamous Métis leader who got hung over there in Saskatchewan, where my mom's from. But he even said way back when, in the middle of the resistance movements, it's going to be artists that are going to be the ones to shine the light here and show us where we need to go. And if we don't have a creative spark, how are we going to get out of this darkness? Like when I look at business right now, when I look at government, when I look at extraction industries, when I look even at so-called healthcare and mental health systems, which I have worked in my whole life, I see only collapsing. So how are we going to have the energy to bring the light? That's my concern. And so, yeah, there are going to be people out there that are still very much in the darkness. They're still very much in grind culture. They're still very much capitalizing on everything. I don't even like to deal with money. Trade, barter, exchange. Those are my ancestors' preferences, and those are mine. No, I mean, we're doing a fundraiser, so don't get me wrong. I do want to be able to pay the designer to get my work out in the world right now. I think it's very important that it gets out there. And I know that, some people are still very much, needing to capitalize, or as one of my young people working on the process, monetize, everything. And, we have to respect that we are in the box. We are in this world with these structures. Capitalism is a true reality. So is patriarchy, so is colonialism. And how do we function as sustainably as we can within the box? Not forgetting it's there, not ignoring it, but how do we care for ourselves and shift it? Like creativity helps us expand it. So that even if we're in that meeting, as you say, where we're feeling demeaned, we're feeling invisibilized, we're feeling marginalized because we tried to put up an idea, as a woman, as a, for me, an Indigenous woman, as an artist, as a creative, whatever, I start scribbling right there and then. I don't even wait till I get out of the meeting. Like I bring my colors and I just go to it. I'm like into my process immediately. I don't try to even, I don't even let them get to me any further than they already have. I'm working my own stuff, and they don't understand. That's okay. We're not going to bring everyone along on this journey. Not everyone can come. They're not ready. And, my teachings from a traditional point of view around self-determination is that people will journey when they're ready. And they won't when they're not. And so we can offer a medicine, but the old kind of more settler side of me, the ancestors on the settler side would say, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So thank you for your question. I send my deepest sympathies because I totally know where you're at, and send my love to everybody here that's in America. Like, wow, come to Canada. Not that we're necessarily going to remain safe enough, but we are fairly okay right in this very immediate moment.